Familiar,
I have
yes.
spoiled it. Is that okay?
Nope, that's totally fine. Yeah. So, what do you think? When are we going to have one of these robots in our homes, helping us doing the, taking care of our home and everything we have to do? About 2 years ago, shortly after Elon Musk announced that Tesla was going to make one day more money with robots than with cars, Goldman Sachs said that forecasted around over 100 million of these robots by 2035. In the last 2 years, there's been other forecasts which are not so optimistic, and the reason for that basically is because in the last 2 years, we have made substantial advancement in terms of the cognitive capacity of these devices through the advancements of AI, etc. But on the other hand, we have not really advanced a lot on what we call the hardware problem of modern robotics. What is the hardware problem of modern robotics? Well, for these guys, in order to move, they need 24 to 36 heavy electrical motors and gearboxes. And after we have put those motors and gearboxes on the robot is so heavy, so expensive, so slow, and needs so much energy that it's not really useful. That is what we call the hardware problem of modern robotics. My name is Pablo, and together with my two co-founders, Stijn Krispel, a youngly, highly highly motivated engineer and highly skilled engineer, and Dirk Lefever, Professor Dirk Lefever, an authority in the field of human-centric robotics, we have built AILOS to try to tackle that problem. So what is AILOS? AILOS is based on our idea that the origin of the hardware problem in modern robotics lies in the fact that we humans move closer to an excavator than to an electrical motor. What I mean by that is, if I now jump like this, each of my foot needs to deliver around 400 Newton meters. That is the torque that a Formula One engine delivers. So if I want to build a robot that has the same strength on each of the feet, I actually need to put one engine at the end of each leg. This is of course not how we're doing robots today, because we engineers have something which is called gearboxes, and gearboxes are very good because they can trade speed for torque, speed for force. So what it means is that we can use a much lighter, smaller motor that spins very, very quickly, and we can combine that with a gearbox that trades speed for torque. So when I put the two together, I do not have the highest speed of the motor, but in exchange for that, I have much higher torque, I have much higher force. And this is basically the solution that you see here, and that's how we do robots today. The problem is that we've come to an end. If we want to improve the weight of this system, we basically have to make the motor lighter, which means smaller, and that means we need to trade more speed for more torque. And that means we need more teeth on the gearbox, so your gearbox gets bigger and heavier. So basically everything you win on the motor, you lose on the gearbox. You cannot make it lighter. This has been a trap for the last 20 years in human-centric robotics. And this is what we call the hardware problem of human-centric robotics. So what we've done is we've came up with a solution for this problem, which is a different type of gearbox that basically can provide a higher exchange of torque for speed without being bigger than what the current gearboxes is. It's actually a bit smaller, such that we can combine that with a much smaller motor. The combination of the two is about 30% lighter than the original one. Is 30% enough? Yes, it is. Because when you reduce the weight of the gearbox plus motor of a robot by 30%, there's something very interesting that starts happening. I'll explain you that with this. This is the UR5, is a robotic manipulator. It's one of the most sold robots today. And it's a robot that can move 5 kilos and weighs 25 kilos, of which 16.6 kilos is movable part of the robot. So the principle is to move a maximum of 5 kilos, you need to actually move 16.6 kilos of robot, and then you move some payload. If you can reduce the weight of the actuator by 30%, your robot becomes much lighter. And that means even if your payload is the same, you don't need motors as strong. So you can actually, again, reduce the size of the actuators. And you can play that game such that at the end, we have a robot that weighs the half of what the original robot was, but still can do exactly the same payload. This is what actually you can get with 30% weight reduction on the gearbox plus motor. The result is a robot that is lighter, which means greener, it leaves less energy. It is safer because it's lighter, so it can move faster and I feel comfortable next to it. It's also more agile, and it's cheaper because you've saved half of the weight of the robot, or of the materials that go with that. The market for that, well, I've already spoken about humanoids, service robots in general, cobot manipulators or robotic manipulators, but we also have exoskeletons and we also have prosthetic devices that can basically replace the lost functionality of people that have lost a limb. And they all share the same hardware problem of modern robotics that we can actually solve with our gearbox. Where are we on our process to bringing this to the market? Is for the last 7 years, we have been building prototypes to basically figure out how to find a gearbox configuration that allows us to reduce 30% the weight of the actuators. And we now have that solution. And so now we're trying to build a product. So we are now, the next part that we're getting in March is to build a real gearbox on the size, performance, etc., that corresponds to what we need. This is, with this, about mid of this year, we want to achieve MVP validation by the end of this year, beginning of next year. And then we can actually approach a customer and really target and focus our gearbox, which is already close by to what they need, to their specific requirements. That will take about 6 months, more or less, to get that validated. And then after that, in about a year, we can actually bring our robots, our gearboxes in the robot to the market. So we can be actually in the market. What do we need to do that? Well, we need money, of course. We need 2 million to get everything started, to get the first pilot project, to convince the first customer, and also to prepare the industrialization of this project. That will take us about 2 to 3 years. And after that, we need, again, a financial capital round to basically allow us to grow our industrialization, to buy materials, to buy machines, etc., so that we can basically follow the manufacturing of these parts. And after that, we actually have a company that in principle is running well, should have good margin. The margins in this market are quite good, and is self-sustainable, so that we can actually expand our domain in robotics, but also beyond robotics, because everything where there's a movement which is similar to a human, that is an excavator, for example, excavators, you can actually use our gearboxes. Wherever you have high forces, limited speed, and you're very sensitive to weight, that's a place where our gearbox has a place to say. We're also exploring e-bikes, for example. The speed of the e-bike is kind of the limit that we can get in terms of speed. It's the fastest we could get with that, but we can actually get in e-bikes also. This is AILOS. Again, my name is Pablo, and well, if you like the project, come and join us and trying to drive modern robotics from its core, the gearboxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Maybe Cedric, you sit this one out? Or not? So, Vin and Simon, if you have any questions for Pablo?
We just had a meeting of what the opportunity to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Just for an understanding, so this is work now being done at the university. You're part of the university?
Yes, the last 7 years I've been, actually I stopped, I was CEO of a company in Spain. We were manufacturing technical springs for the automotive industry. It's where I've spent 20 years of my professional career. And then I moved to Brussels, and I can put it short. My wife was living here, my daughter was on the way, so it was a short negotiation and I had to move to Brussels. The only condition I could put in was I want to make a PhD in robotics, because I had a strong passion for robotics, and this is the result of that thing. I met Dirk and Stein, and this is basically what came out of that.
Can you explain in an easy way what makes your gearbox different, or how you accomplish the 30% reduction?
Yes, let me see if I can deal with this. Go here. Yes, so this guy moves. Let's see if I can make it move. No. Ah, there it is, okay. So what is happening there is that we have what we call a planetary movement. Basically, the gears are moving a bit like a planet. They are rotating around a central gear, which is the sun, and they are also rotating around their own axis. And we have 2 layers and a quite complex movement that is similar to what happens when you're driving your car in your differential. So what your differential is doing when you're driving your car is trying to equalize the speed of the, sorry, to bring the speed of the two wheels to be close when you're going through a curve. Because when you go through a curve with a car, the distance that is traveled by the wheel that is in the inside and in the outside is not the same. So you need to let them have a small difference between the two. What this gearbox does is it does a similar thing between these two wheels. So one is stopped, is the housing, is one part, and the other one is the output. And this system is trying to bring these two speeds relatively close. No matter how much speed I put in here, these two will stay in a certain ratio. And that means with this very compact configuration, I can go in with a fast spinning motor, very small and very fast spinning, and get out here a relatively slow movement. And because of conservation of power, what happens is your torque here, your force here is small, but everything you've put into speed, now you have it in torque. So you have a very high torque with a moderate speed. Again, you're an excavator, you're in a human movement. That is the principle, and that's how it works.
Thank you.
Is it clear, yeah?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay. I think it's the biggest challenge that I have encountered until now, or we have some others, but is to explain these into,
I
because,
like the idea, it's very nice.
okay, yeah.
Maybe one follow-up question, and I'm sure Cubic maybe also asked you. As investors, it's still early, but we always like to think about the exit.
Yeah.
What kind of company do you think will kind of buy AILOS?
So we are in a market that is very clustered. So if you look at compact gearboxes today, you find 4 or 5 manufacturers that dominate 75% of the market. That means naturally we will at a certain point become interested for one of these people to basically integrate as a business unit or in a different way. But that's a bit the natural exit that we see. Once I think we have demonstrated the utility and brought them already in some of the markets. That's at least the one that we think is the most likely to happen. Yeah.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Alex, how much time do we have?
We still have 5 minutes. So
Is there anyone else with a question?
from the audience. I'm looking at you.
No?
I'm on advisory board. So
Yeah, he also knows. I'm well backed here.
From a competitive perspective, you patented it, you said, but
Yes.
neither knows. You would expect the gearbox manufacturers that you mentioned to be looking at alternatives as well, right?
Yes, there is. I mean, gearboxes have been around for the last 3,000 years. The Chinese were using gearboxes 1000 BC. A very interesting south pointing chariot made in wood, where there's basically a statue on top pointing to the south, and through a differential play, like what you see here, no matter where you drive the chariot, the guy will always point to the south. So it's an old technology. There's a lot. We know a lot there. So if you try to put a patent on that, we say it's a mining field. It's whatever you say. Oh, I'm putting it here. Boom, there's something there. So it doesn't. So it was a very difficult process. It took us over 3 years to basically come up. Also because we wanted to go to a broad umbrella patent. And what we are patenting is basically that if you go directly towards this, you have an efficiency problem. You have a lot of losses on the gearbox. The relative movement of the gearboxes that is happening there make it that you have high losses, because gears do not depend on the absolute speed that you have, but the speed of one gear relative to the next gear that is meshing with. So what you have to do is you have to go in there and you have to optimize the topology of the gearbox to reduce those movements. And that's what basically we're doing in the patent. And that's what allows us to basically put a patent in a mining field. That is the principle that we do. Why nobody came up with that question, with that idea before, is something that has been through our minds for quite some time. We have an hypothesis. That's everything we have. But the thing is, how it occurred to us to try this was because Dirk, Professor Lefebvre, had the idea of doing something completely counterintuitive. And Stein and me, we were already 4 years into our PhD. So we said, Dirk, no, it's not going to work. I mean, if you do that, then the gearbox is heavier. So, I mean, that's the wrong way. We want to reduce weight. We don't want to increase the weight. But, okay, those who know Dirk know you don't discuss him wrong. You basically prove him wrong. That's the only way. So we sat down for a couple of weeks trying to prove him wrong. And we discovered that when you do that movement, you increase the mass, but then there's a lot of things that start happening here that allow you to reduce the mass more than what you have increased it. So actually, what to experts in the field, 4 years into our PhD into gearboxes, was totally counterintuitive, delivered completely unexpected surprises. And that was basically how the whole thing started. We realized, oh, this is the way to go. This is the way to go. That is, at a high level, how we believe or why we believe nobody came with this idea before.
That's a nice anecdote to wrap up the first
think
part of the pitches, I think. No?
Mark,
Do you still have a question?
Just one small question. It's good to have a patent, but does it protect you? Will they be able to circumvent it?
Well, I think it's alone is just a patent, okay? A patent is a good defense for a first blow, but yeah, probably doesn't take the second, right? So we basically need now to develop the more detailed patterns of the specific solutions that we have done, such you can build basically a large umbrella, and then you can go there. And also we want to, we're not planning to do the full manufacture of these devices because that would basically slow us in our time to market. So what we're doing is we're buying standard gears from people that know how to do it according to our specifications, but they have the machines to do it already, and we do the assembly. And the assembly of this is quite complicated, so we also want to basically create new IP there that is easier to hide, and then combine a broad umbrella with a small coverage of patent, and that with some secrets. That is the strategy, because we think that a patent is good, but it's not enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.